Jaws 2, a worthy successor to Steven Spielberg's 1975 classic. There is a lot of focus and love being showered over Jaws now due to its 50th anniversary. However, I think the sequel deserves more love. So join me, Steve Clark, as I discuss 10 good things about Jaws 2. Number 1. It's a slasher movie with grisly deaths. While the first movie is a film of two distinct halves, the first half being a horror movie that has the shark attack multiple victims, and the second half being a boy's own adventure, Jaws 2 is a different beast. This is more like a slasher movie. Is it a coincidence that Jaws 2 was released in the same year as John Carpenter's Halloween? It follows the usual tropes of a slasher movie. The unstoppable monster is picking off teenagers one at a time, except in this case, it's not on the streets of Haddonfield or at Camp Crystal Lake, it's on the waters surrounding Amity Island. The sons of Chief Brody and his wife Ellen are on the menu as they go sailing with their friends and run into trouble with another great white shark, or a Carcharodon carcharius, as some characters insist on calling it just to make themselves look smart. Number 2. The score. Although director Steven Spielberg did not return for the sequel, at this point in his career he was busy working on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he also described making sequels as cheap carny tricks. One major coup on the producer's part was to get musical maestro John Williams back to do the score. The score for Jaws 2 is one of the best things about the film. Williams could have done a simple do-over of the score by replicating the famous shark theme and score from the first movie, but he doesn't do that at all. The score for Jaws 2 is familiar, but also very different, and that's a great trick that Williams manages to pull off. Check out the opening cue, Finding the Orca, which has a beautiful, almost ethereal quality, opening with harp strings. We don't even hear the famous shark theme in the opening of the film, not until Bruce Part 2 attacks the poor divers who find the orca on the seabed. Number 3. Roy Scheider's performance. Considering that Roy Scheider did not want to be on the set at all, he still gives a convincing performance as Chief Brody. Scheider was there to fulfill a contract obligation that he had with Universal Pictures. He had 2 movies left on his contract, but was told that if he did Jaws 2, that would count as those 2 movies. 2 weeks prior, he had just quit his role on Michael Cimino's The Deer Hunter over creative differences, so him agreeing to do Jaws 2 would also help him out of that contractual obligation. Scheider was notoriously difficult on set, and at one point he even got into a fistfight with the director Jenno Schwartz. Despite this and other difficulties, Scheider absolutely convinces the audience as Brody, who is traumatized from the events of the first movie and sure as hell doesn't want to go through that hell again. Yes, the plot may feel like a bit of a retread from the first movie, with Mayor Vaughn and the local bureaucrats not wishing to believe that there's another shark problem, but the scene where Brody confronts Mayor Vaughn and the town hall group with the shark photos is very well acted. Other notable moments are when Brody causes a panic on the beach and shoots at the school of fish, and his scene with Ellen, just after he's fired as the chief of police, is really excellent. Scheider plays drunk very well. Don't forget kids, it was a different time, it was the 1970s, we don't encourage drink driving. But when Brody arrives home to be met with Hendrix and Ellen, his bluster soon gives way to him bemoaning to Ellen that he's never been fired before because he can't hack it. It's a great scene and Scheider is excellent in it. Number 4. The exploration of trauma and PTSD. It seems fitting that after speaking about Scheider's performance, I talk about how Jaws 2 explores the themes of trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. After the events of his first shark encounter, Brody is still carrying the trauma of that event with him, while the rest of Amity Island are carrying on as if it's business as usual. The original idea for Jaws 2 was that Amity would be a ghost town, a boarded up failure, as the tourism industry had died after the first shark attacks. When original director John T. Hancock was fired and the movie was rewritten, the concept was abandoned and Chief Brody's PTSD was toned down. In the original version, Brody's trauma was more pronounced. He was incredibly paranoid and haunted by nightmares from his experience. He had issues going near the water again, and he would keep having hallucinations that were related to the shark. Even though this was significantly toned down for the actual movie, some of those themes remain. Brody's still terrified of the water, who wouldn't be, and his fear of another shark preying on Amity is dismissed as paranoia by Mayor Vaughn and the local officials. Brody is very much out on his own in this film, and some of his actions may be seen as reckless, such as shooting his gun while on a packed beach using cyanide-tipped bullets. There's a fantastic scene where the photos are being developed from the diver's camera that was recovered by the shipwreck of the Orca. As the photos slowly develop, we can see that Brody's fears are real as the outline of the shark's eye reveals itself. The scene where Brody confronts Mayor Vaughn and the locals is excellent. Scheider's performance here is first class, as he shouts at the group that he knows what a shark looks like as he's seen one up close, and they'd better do something about this one, as he doesn't intend to go through that hell again. It's after this scene where the Town Hall Committee vote to fire Martin Brody from his job as Chief of Police. Interestingly, in a deleted scene, we learn that Mayor Vaughn is the only member of that committee who voted against firing Brody. There are theories that Brody's trauma and PTSD were reflecting the cultural landscape of the time the film was made, where many veterans were returning from the Vietnam War and were ostracised for their psychological struggles. Number 5. The best movie tagline and poster ever. I adore both the Jaws 2 teaser poster and the tagline. Look at this poster, it's beautiful. I love the ominous orange sky and the shark fin cutting through the ocean. And of course we've got one of the best marketing movie taglines in history. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. It had been 3 years since Jaws had scared a generation from going swimming in the sea. I'd imagine that people were just about getting over their fears, but seeing this poster and reading that tagline probably set them all back again. Fantastic movie marketing there. Number 6. The novelization by Hank Searles. Author Hank Searles was hired to write the movie novelization, and it was based on one of the first draft screenplays written by Howard Sackler and his wife Dorothy Tristan, which may explain why the finished novel is wildly different to the movie. It throws in some wild detours and whole new subplots you'll never actually see on the screen. The original screenplay and novel are much darker in tone. Due to the events with the original shark a few years prior, as I said earlier, Amity is a ghost town. A lot of the businesses are closed, most shops are boarded up. Chief Brody suddenly finds himself in a turf war over a flashy new casino being built in Amity. Cue the arrival of a mafia heavy who holidays on the island and is more than happy to make Brody's life miserable if it gets him closer to the blackjack tables. Again, there were mafia connections in the original Jaws novel, which were cut out of the first movie. But the book doesn't stop there. It even dives into the shark's point of view. Plot twist, she's female, and she's the mate of the first shark from the first movie. She's a pregnant mother just trying to grab a decent meal and find a safe nursery for her baby. Yes, that's right, the novel tries to make you feel bad for the giant killing machine. Other differences that are worth noting between the novel and the film: the big kids regatta doesn't happen until the last 20 to 30 pages, and most of the film's teen characters don't even exist. Mike Brody's around, but that's about it. Which means there's no Eddie and Tina, which means there's no grisly death scene with Eddie. Brody never goes full action hero, spraying bullets at the breach cloud. And in true why not fashion, there are bonus subplots about an injured porpoise, an off-duty cop with connections to the mob, and a cranky small-town pharmacist. A bit different there. Number 7. Carl Gottlieb's rehiring. Most Jaws fans will be familiar with Carl Gottlieb's contribution to Jaws. He plays Meadows in the first movie, and he helped rewrite the screenplay too. He initially was not brought on board for Jaws 2, as the first draft screenplay was written by Howard Sackler and his wife Dorothy Tristan. After the original dark tone of the screenplay was rejected by the producers Richard D. Zanuck and David Brown, along with the original director John D. Hancock, Gottlieb was quickly drafted in to add some humour and tone down some of the violence. Allegedly, this cost the producers more money to bring in Gottlieb at this stage than it would have if they'd hired him in the first place. Some changes that Gottlieb made included lightening the tone. The initial script, written by Sackler and Tristan, was considered too dark and contained a much more intense opening scene with multiple victims in a ski and boat attack. Gottlieb was brought in to make the film more of an adventure and less of a horror movie. He streamlined the opening. As he said, Gottlieb revised the scene with the skiers and the boat to feature a smaller number of characters. He brought in the Orca shipwreck, which led to a more streamlined attack, enhancing the overall flow of the movie. He did some character adjustments. There was a character named Boyle, who was to be the focus of an organised crime subplot. He was written out of the script entirely under Gottlieb's revisions. One of the great things Gottlieb did, he brought back Deputy Hendricks, because in the original draft, Hendricks does not make an appearance, but Gottlieb brings back the character, and I'm sure Jeffrey Kramer is very, very grateful. Number 8. The Burned Shark. Bruce or Brucette, depending on which draft of the story you choose to believe, is seen a lot more in Jaws 2 than we see the shark in the original movie. The production used 2 new mechanical sharks who were known as Fidel and Harold was named after another lawyer, the lawyer of producer David Brown. We see a lot more of the shark in the sequel, as director Schwartz believed that the moment in the first movie where Bruce first pops out of the water could not be replicated. Schwartz also believed that the suspense of the first movie could not be repeated, and this is why the filmmakers decided to scar the shark early on in the story. When Brucette attacks the water skier and boat in the movie, the shark ends up with a burned face for the rest of the film. Some may argue that it's unnecessary, but I like that the second shark is a bit more menacing looking due to the charred burn marks around the face and the mouth. There are some great shots in the film. One of the more famous ones is where the shark skims by the side of one of the boats that the kids are on in the film's final third. And it's a great shot as the shark sort of glides past the camera with its mouth open. I mean, the mouth may not look that convincing in the final shot, but I still think it looks pretty cool, and it's something a bit different to the first movie. The filmmakers had to differentiate the shark somehow, and giving it that burned, scarred look certainly does that. It even plays into the tropes of slasher movies. My first point in this video is that Jaws 2 is a slasher film, and in slasher films the main bad guys have some kind of, disfigurement. Did Brucette inspire Jason Voorhees? No. That's a bit of a stretch, I think. Number 9. The young cast. Where the first film relied pretty much on an older cast, we have the dynamic trio of Brody, Hooper and Quint in the second half of Jaws. In the sequel, the shark has a whole heap of boats packed with teenagers to feast on. 17 actors were originally cast to play the group of teens that were to be put in peril, but when original director John D. Hancock was replaced by Janos Schwartz, 5 of them were fired, and we were left with the group of teens that we now see in the finished film. Future star Keith Gordon is probably the most famous of the group. He went on to star in Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill and John Carpenter's Christine. But there are some other great actors here in the group, notably Ann Dusenberry as Tina Wilcox, who's Amity's beauty queen. She went on to co-star in the excellent and underseen movie Cutter's Way. Thomas Dunlop as Timmy, the bespectacled dude with the curly hair, and Donna Wilkes as Jackie. Ann Dusenberry gives a brilliant performance towards the climax of the film, where she's picked up by Hendricks and Ellen Brody just after the brutal death of her boyfriend Eddie. She is clearly in shock, and the way she screams "shark" is chilling. Donna Wilkes' performance has been criticised for her hysterical and potentially over-the-top screaming towards the end of the movie. However, in the original cut of the film, her character Jackie was reacting to a character called Bob being bitten in half right in front of her. And yes, if you're thinking the name Bob is intentional, it is. After all, what would half a person's body do in the ocean after being eaten by a shark? This scene was never used as it was seen as too horrifying, but if you look closely, you can see a boat with a huge bite mark in it. Having Brucette go after teens does steer Jaws 2 towards slasher movie territory, as I've said, but it is a different direction to go in after the first movie. Adding Mike and Sean Brody into the mix adds more tension for Chief Brody as he goes after them to save the day. Number 10. Jaws eats a helicopter. Yes, that's what I've put for number 10. Jaws eats a helicopter. That's it. Brucette attacks the helicopter and eats the dude with the most 1970s sideburns you've ever seen. It's an iconic scene in the film, which originally was longer in duration. In the original version, we saw the pilot being attacked by the shark underwater after the helicopter capsizes. The scene was cut by producers as they had to reduce the amount of shark attacks to secure a lower rating from the movie board. It's a bit silly, but I love it. But it seems that Jaws really will eat anything. So that's what I think are 10 good things about Jaws 2. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Are there more good things that you think should be on the list? Is there something I've left out? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this debut video for 10 Good Things, please like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be plenty more of 10 Good Things videos to come. In the meantime, I'll see you again very soon. Good night.